Hello and welcome. I'm Darren. Today we have another upgrade for the NR200P Max V2. So I put the extra fans in the bottom the other day. Those were the slim Noctua 120mm fans. Those are actually from another system, and it is from another system that I do intend to use. So I basically wanted to try probably the most value option available to change all of the fans, just to see, because as far as it goes, trying to find any information on the included fans wasn't particularly good. Annoyingly, I've thrown them up in the loft, so giving you information on the included fans isn't something that I can particularly do right now. But effectively, they were okay. So there's only two fans included in the NR200P Max. They are obviously Cooler Master's own fans. It's obviously a Cooler Master 280 AIO, so there's two 140mm Cooler Master fans. They don't appear to be anything that I can actually find online. Trying to find a Cooler Master 280 AIO is almost impossible. So it appears that probably what they put in these is just made for these units themselves. It's not really something that you can then buy aftermarket. As far as it goes, the fans were, I don't think they had a very high, I think they were like a 1400 RPM highest they would go, and I think they were like a DC controlled as well. They weren't a PMW fan, so they were okay. Looking at the quality of them, once I took them out, you could tell that they weren't particularly great designed for static airflow. Very large gaps in the kind of fan, in the area where the edge of the fan goes to the case of the fan, if that makes sense. Like you could drive a car through it. So as far as it goes, performance, they were, I mean, as far as you'll see in this, I haven't changed particularly the performance of the system. What I've done is brought down the noise level of the system quite a lot. So effectively what I did was I went for the value option first, which is the Arctic p14 Max. So these are, as you can see, just over £10 each. And if you kind of look through anything that you can find on YouTube or anything else, these are rated very high as a radiator fan. For 140s, there's not a massive amount of choice. But if you don't want to go the RGB route and you want the absolute kind of budget fan, these go from, they actually go to zero. There is a zero mode for them. And they go to 2,800 RPM. So not that you want to run them at that, but you can do. So yes, we've installed two of these. So far, I'll show you, I've done kind of a couple of videos. There's a video of the case running with just its two stock 140mm fans. I've done the video of the system running when I had the two slim Noctuas plus the standard 140mm fans, and I've done a video of these running. My door is so fucking loud. I've done a video of these running because the other thing that we've done at the same time, because I just wanted, once I had the case open, I just wanted to get it all done, is we've done the 120s as well. So we've got two 140s, and we've, at the same time, we've installed two 120 Arctic P12 Maxes. Now those are the full size. They're not the slims. I did order some slims. They're not here yet. I think they're going to be here today. I don't know if I'm even going to bother. If someone really wants me to check them out, I can do. I don't think it will probably make that much difference. because what I've done is I've run both of these, so the radiator fans and the floor fans, so the ones in the bottom of the case, which is these, I've got these to exhaust, so they're exhausting out of the bottom of the case, and the p14s I've got as exhaust also, so they're exhausting out of the top of the case. So kind of not your normal, I understand. I've never run a case like this, so exhaust out the bottom, exhaust out the top. We're using the perforated side panel. Effectively what that's doing is it's exhausting air out of the case from both ends, so it's drawing air in through the side panels, and it seems to work. If you want the best, I think as far as it goes, if you want the best for gaming, so you want the best mixture of GPU and CPU thermals, I think it's the best way to go. If you want to kind of intake through the bottom and exhaust through the top, I think that will probably give you your best GPU thermals, but it will give you your worst CPU thermals. And I think if you turn that around the other way, so intake through the top and exhaust out the bottom, I think that will give you your best CPU thermals, but it will give you your worst GPU thermals. I think if you want the best balance between the both, this is the best way to run it in this case. So to do this, you have to do a bit of modification, because this case is set up to take slims. It doesn't come obviously like that from the factory. We can put slims in it. To put full-size fans in the bottom, which is what we've done here, is you need to get yourself, if you don't have any, I already had some at hand, because I've got quite a lot of this stuff sitting around, you need some motherboard standoffs. So like I said, I already had some. I just used whatever I had, which, looking at this, there's quite a lot of sizes. So you might want to grab yourself like a kit like this, I'd probably say. Because, in fact, that might be quite handy. If you get yourself a kit with some washers, if you wanted to do these modifications, because the other thing I'll go through in a minute is I'm going to need some washers. I'm going to go and grab some today. So I'd probably say a kit with some motherboard standoffs that include some washers. If you're needing to order anything, get all of that at the same time. And I'll tell you why. But anyway, I used what looks like, I believe, this size. There's different threaded one there. That looks like a too fine a thread. So I'm pretty sure that looks like the kind of a regular. I don't have exactly what it is. I apologize. And effectively what you have to do is, where you attach your GPU, you take obviously these screws out, take these covers out. If it's 2 slot, take 2 out. If it's 3 slot, take 3 out. You know the score. And then you screw a standoff down into where you're going to attach your GPU. You then put it over the top of the standoff, and then you use the motherboard screws to attach it down. So effectively you're raising the height of the GPU in the case, and that will give you the clearance at the bottom. Because what you get is, once your motherboard's in, you got your riser cable, and your riser cable for where your GPU sits, the riser cable obviously comes down to where the GPU PCB is, and that's what gets in the way. That will sit too low and it will hit. You wouldn't fit in a regular thickness fan. So effectively, once you put these standoffs in this area, you're raising the GPU up. Now there is a slight issue with that, if it matters to you, and that is you will block one of the either display port or HDMI port, however your GPU is set up. One of those will not, you won't be able to, and I didn't even realize this until I went to do it, because I do run 2 monitors. So I went to plug in my display ports for both of my monitors, and then realized I could no longer do that. Not a problem. My second monitor I only use for the content, so when I'm recording I just have that up so I can see exactly what's going on. So I just changed the cable out to a HDMI instead. But that is something that you need to know. So like I said, you put the standoff here, effectively you raise the height, so your GPU would be sat down at this level, you end up raising it up to this level, which allows that kind of, whatever it is, 10mm of clearance that you then get to put in your regular size fans. And that's that. So as far as washers go, now this was interesting. You can just about hopefully make them out here. So because you have cables, a lot of cables that end up coming up this way, you can see that they've put on these these fan grills to stop cables or anything getting into the fan blades. I would say that you need to use these. Or I reckon if you're running if you're running NVIDIA in here and you're running the 90-degree high power lead, you probably don't have to worry about it. With this GPU, because I'm using 3 8-pins, or effectively I'm using a piggy tail, but however it is, those cables tend to get up and around the fans because they're not on 90 degrees, so they do stick up quite high and they basically get pushed down by the fans. Now, that means using these grills is worthwhile. When I swapped these fans out to the Arctic P14s, I turned the system on and instantly heard a ton of fan roll. So I knew that something was, which I thought was weird because I had the grills on and I knew it was coming from this one. And I thought, okay, I must have dropped something in there, or I've got the end of a cable tie that's somehow managed to find its way in, because I was using very thin cable ties across the back with cables. It was none of that. It was effectively one of the fans, once they get up to speed, they kind of raise. When they're starting up at low speed, the fans are like dropped on their bearing, and they were rattling against this. This one wasn't for some reason. This one was. What I did was quick loosen one of these screws, and that was enough to stop the rattle. So effectively what I'm going to do today is just go to the hardware store, which is literally just around the corner from me, and grab some small washers. So I'm going to end up just basically putting a washer in to just pull these grills away from the fan a little bit and give a little bit of clearance, because they sit completely flush with the edge of the fan. Obviously they were designed to fit on these Cooler Master fans, and the Arctic ones, they don't work quite as well. So that's that basically. As far as it goes, probably end game for me. I'm not bothered about when I get this, or now I've got this system to where it is and I'm loving it. Like, I'm really happy I made this decision. I now have a place that I can fit 2 systems on my desk. So I'm going to change my monitor layout. At the moment I've got a side-by-side. I've ordered a ARM, so I'm going to have under and over. I'm going to have this system to my left. I'm going to have my NVIDIA system to my right. I'm probably going to use a KVM so that I don't have to keep unplugging and plugging in and doing all of this crazy stuff. And as far as it goes, this system for me now is done. How it is, I love it. Using these fans, like I said, I've run these now at, there is some tuning to be done. It's made a little bit of a difference in a way that at first I thought, that's interesting. As in, temperatures didn't change. If anything, temperatures maybe got slightly better on the GPU and slightly worse on the CPU, and I thought, well, that's interesting because these are better radiator fans. But then I realized that they're probably now, because they are better fans and they are drawing more air, they are managing to pick up more hot air coming from the GPU and pull it into the rad, whereas the other fans were probably struggling. It's by 1 degrees. So it's not a bad thing. I can live with that. I could get more. Obviously, I could run these fans up a lot more. What do they go to? What did I say they go to? Because I've got them set. So yeah, they go to 3,000. No, hold on. Is that where's the 14? 2,800. So yes, effectively, I've got this running. I thought I had it running at a low percentage. Like I said, I've got these running at 1200. So, and that's just a static. I have them in a static line. At the very end, I get them to ramp up to 100% in case something obviously goes wrong. But as far as it goes, from the moment I start the PC up, these just run at 1200 RPM. The bottom ones and the top ones. Like, I might be better off lowering the bottom ones slightly or changing the top ones. I don't know. That's literally just what I went for. Straight away in the BIOS, run them both at 1200. They sounded kind of a good balance. I mean, effectively, I don't hear the fans. There's no fan noise. What there is air. So you hear the air movement. It's pushing out, the lower fans are pushing out, obviously, a lot of air down into the desktop, which is something that you're not really used to hearing. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like it has that. If I had a desk fan running and it was a very quiet desk fan blowing towards me, but you could hear the air movement coming from it, that's kind of the noise, the only real noise I get from this case now, which is very impressive. It's no louder than any of my full-size cases, and my temps, I think, are fantastic, especially now, because obviously it is quieter now. So I'm getting kind of similar temps to what I was in the other options, but quieter, and that is probably quite important to me. I do have like a past of water cooling systems. Certainly, like when you were using any of like the high-end 30 series GPUs that were generally quite loud. GPUs nowadays are a lot bigger. There's a lot better coolers on GPUs from what there was even a couple of years ago, where they were kind of a bit more undersized with smaller fans, and they were just generally a lot louder. So now this GPU in here is fantastic. Obviously it's only 2 slot thick, which is quite good. It means that there's a good amount of room. It's not right butted up to the side panel. So overall, happy as anything. What I will say is, sorry, I just got it up here, which reminded me, if you're following this video and any of these things you're deciding are something that you want to do, I'm not telling you need to do any of this. Like these fans, so I basically spent an extra £40 on these fans, and that's for the 2 140s at the top and the 2 120s at the bottom. I notice a difference. I notice a difference in sound, and obviously there is a lot more room to play with these fans. They go a lot higher RPM. I could obviously get better performance. If I put them up to 1500, I'd get better performance if I put them. So I'm balancing it to what I want, in the way of performance and to what I want in the way of noise. You will get more room with these. You might find this a £40 upgrade worth doing, you might not. What I will say is, if you wanted to change these 2 fans, you probably want to do it at the very start. They are very awkward once you've got the system built, because at the start you have room to take the top, so you can take the top off this case. You have a screw here and a screw here. So you have 2 screws in each corner, one at the top and one at the side, and then you can slide it backwards and you can pull this top part with the radiator attached out. Now, once you, obviously before you build the case, you have room then to have these AIO tubes. You have room to pull these away to get to these fans. Once you've got the system built and you have this attached and you have these cable tied down, you don't have a lot of room. The only way that I could get these fans out and change to the new ones is, luckily I have a bit driver. So I have one of these at hand. So you can obviously get in like this to undo the screw. I mean, these, if you're a man at home and you tend to do some DIY, like these are, I work with cars all day. I'm a panel beater and painter, so I strip a lot of cars. I use these at work, and I have one of these sets at home. It's like the absolute go-to for me. So you would need one of these because you can't lift this top away. Obviously, you're restricted by the fact that you've got these tubes cable tied down. So that's that. It's a bit awkward once it's built. If you wanted to do it, maybe do it at the start, but it is doable as long as you have one of these. I don't think you do it once it's built without one of these. So that's effectively it. If you wanted to make those changes, then like I said, you need the motherboard standoffs. Those are an absolute, if not, you're going to have to make up something to space it out. You're going to have to do a bit more DIY. So you need the spacers, you need, I'm not saying you need, but you probably want to have some little washers that you can just pull these grills. So just put it in between to just pull these grills down. And effectively, that's it. You want to obviously make sure that you've got support for your GPU because you are raising it on this cover. So you want to make sure that you've got a support to hold your GPU at the other end. And that's about it. So there we go. I'm chuffed with it. We'll go to, like I said, I did some benchmarks. I ran the system for half an hour. What I will say now is, or saying that, we'll go to the benchmarks and I can kind of talk over it anyway. So here we have. Like I said, I ran this system for about half an hour. Luckily, this game's quite handy because this game, for some reason, I don't know why, but whilst it's running, it doesn't, if it doesn't detect any movements, it doesn't seem to pause or return to a menu or do anything strange. It seems that you could run it for hours without even touching your system and it'll just carry on running. So I left the system run for about half an hour. This isn't an exact science. This isn't temperature. You know, I mean, I am in a room that does change in temperature. I tried to do it kind of quite close together. So hopefully there might have been a degree rise in the room temperature. It was kind of morning getting towards lunchtime, so it might have gone up a little bit. Who knows? If it did, then I basically ran the default first. So if anything, I would have only got it would have only got warmer. The temperatures would have only got warmer. So they would have only actually they wouldn't have hurt the default settings. Those would have been at the absolute coolest, and this is obviously the worst. So this is effectively, unfortunately, I needed to drop my overlay to, oh no, we're okay. So this was at default, and at default you could see that. Cheers, mate. Yeah, it's cool. That's good. Cheers, mate. Sorry about that. Posty bringing me stuff. So, yes, you can see this running at default. So CPU temps are a little bit higher than what I actually thought. So CPU temps are 66. Now, what I will say is these temperatures do go up when you hit record. They do go up by a couple of degrees, by pretty much 2 degrees on everything. So you can probably knock down 2 on the CPU, and you can probably knock down 2 on the GPU. So this is showing 60 on the GPU. It would probably have been 58 before I hit record. It goes instantly. I have my record set up on a hotkey, so I always notice an FPS drop or a temperature change that happens instantly when you press it. So this would effectively probably, you can see the CPU's just gone up to, it's kind of gone 66, 60. So you could definitely knock off 1. you could 100% knock off 1 degrees. 100%. It might be somewhere between 1 and 2 degrees. This is with the thin. So this was the stock 140 fans on the radiator, and this was adding the Noctua, I can't remember the exact whatever they were, but the 120mm thin fans in exhaust at the bottom. So a fair bit of difference on the GPU temps. I thought he was coming back then. So what were we? We were 60. This took us to 57, and it did knock down the CPU temps from quite a lot. That's interesting. So it's brought down both of the temps. I think that those Noctua Slim fans actually overpowered the radiator fans by quite a lot to drop those CPU temps that much. I think they were stopping a lot of air getting pulled through the actual, or a lot of the warm air. I think they actually really overpowered them, whereas you'll see the Arctic ones don't overpower the rad fans as much. So what you will see is, well, it's probably hard for you to see if I don't move my mouse. You probably will if that disappears. The stupid media player thing. So the GPU fans were running at around 1640. With the slim fans, they are more 1500, 1520, let's say. So you knocked off over 100 RPM on the GPU fans as well. Not a huge difference, noticeable. So that's with the thin fans, and then at the end we have the P14s and the P12s. So like I said, this is just them running at 1200 RPM, and we're now at 1400. The temps do, let's go, because the temps do climb a little bit because we're screen capturing, but you can see that the CPU is now below 60. It would be, obviously, you can knock off like a degree or 2 degrees. So effectively with the P12s and not screen capture. God, I hate this fucking media player. Thank you. So effectively with the P14s and the P12s, you're under 1500 RPM on the GPU fans and your CPU and your GPU. So the GPU without recording was at 55 and the CPU without recording was 58. So 58 on the CPU, 55 on the GPU, and around 1400 RPM on the GPU fans. That's not me messing around with the fan curve for the GPU. That's whatever gigabyte have it set up at, which is, it seems pretty good for me. It keeps the memory temps, they're staying below 85. Looking at tech power-ups things, I think that's actually really good. So as far as it goes, for this whole build, in this small case, for a GPU that's running 340 watts, and you know the 3D cache CPU that do tend to run quite warm, you can see it's boosting well. So it's boosting at 5000 megahertz there, so it's kind of very happy in its zone. I'm blown away. And I'm someone that generally water cools and does crazy stuff. Like I said, this was 40 quid. So I paid an extra £40 to put these fans in, and I had to make a little bit of mudding. But as far as it goes, I don't think I'll do anything with this now, other than get some washers just to move those grills. Because for noise now, playing a game, amazing. My tower, like my full size ATX systems, don't run any. They don't run any. Well, I have got a 70 in my 7900 XTX build. there's a 7800X 3D that is on a 360mm CPU cooler. So that does run a bit cooler than what this one does. But as far as it goes, below 60 degrees in this tiny little case. And like I said, the GPU 55 to 56, amazing. All in all, I've put it together. So all in all, this system cost me, so this is the 9070 XT with a 7800X 3D. You've seen the parts I've used. I've not skimped out on any. These fans are obviously quite cheap for what they are, but if you check benchmarks, they're very well received. We put in decent quality RAM, we put in decent quality M.2 drives, and overall this system cost me $1,700. So I am more than happy. So this is kind of 7800X 3D, which is, you know, it's only beaten realistically by the 9800X 3D, and then AMD's top GPU that you can buy this generation, system built, £1,700. I'm extremely happy with this. Runs cool, runs quiet, little case that I can move around. I'm good. Let me know what you think. I don't think some people would probably bother with this. Some people would probably. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, when you look at stock, what I would say is, I think the postie just delivered my slim fans as well. I'd probably say slim fans in the bottom. If you want to run the vented case, if you want best GPU and CPU thermals and you want to run this system, I would say put the vented panel on and run some slim fans exhaust at the bottom, because stock you see 66 on the CPU and 60 on the GPU. You can see, look, we're knocking down 200 RPM on the end, what I've done, but add the slims, you're still knocking down 100 RPM, and the slims do a really good job, just beaten by this at the end. And this is quieter because the stock rad fans, these p14s, are a lot quieter than the fans that come with it, and the lower p12s, they're just silent. You hear a lot of wind noise from them, but the actual fans themselves are silent. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think. I'm impressed. I know it's not, obviously, when it comes to the ITX world of cases, it's not like this incredible, you know, it's not like the Thor Zone cases or any of those premium, high-quality, £400 ITX just for the case. Do you know what I mean? But as far as it goes, for the price that this whole system cost, I'm really impressed. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.